5. One's dead end is another's open beginning. You decided to retire from the adventuring life, scrape together the treasure you'd managed to squirrel away in an abandoned garret next to a rusty portcullis, and stow yourself away on the next ship out to wash up in some out-of-the-way backwater, hoping none of your myriad enemies would come find you. It was a great plan, but of great plans come the grim realities. As far as you run from adventure, adventurers run farther. You sunk your treasure into a grimy, overlooked hole in the rough part of town, and now that you've cleaned it up with the flat of your axe, it's only natural that people will come knocking. Popularity isn't bad, though. Tonight, you've decided to book your first entertainment. The Golden Dragon Tavern has been so dubbed because it takes a gold dragon's heart to keep the place running, the owner is known to grumble. In fact, lacking both gold and power, Korik, the owner, thought she should bring some respect, some acclaim to the establishment, such as might ride into town on flapping dragon wings. As a half-orc in a predominantly human town, she had to appeal to people's higher nature. Otherwise, they'd just as soon run her through with a pike. She did look so much like one of the Highland marauders, after all. For a port town, Yaamon was enlightened enough for its inhabitants, but really not enough for Korik. Korik half-orcan, or, as she liked to say, half-Humanian. She kept her identity as the proprietor a secret from her guests. On her last day abroad, she had bought a painting from a starving artist of a loaf of bread. True story. It hung now over the fireplace at the far end of the room. That was the proprietor, Sir Breadloaf. Since it was common practice to throw offensive smaller beings into said fireplace, Korik usually left it unlit. "I'm not that kind of half-human," she said to her barmaid, who was disappointed. The barmaid liked to add a little branding to the gold dragon, particularly the literal kind. In Korik's opinion, the lass was getting a little too liberal with her wandering hands, picking up a dagger or a pouch off a patron who made a grab for her skirts. Korik would have to talk to her about the parameters of the unwanted attention tax. The cook poked potatoes into the oven, while his assistant moved a pot of boiling water to the back burner. For a bread and potatoes kind of place, it was heavy on the potatoes. Bread came with a tax from the local lord, and that was unwanted attention, according to Korik. A sailor spat right off a ship, perched, his eyes half-mast, on the bar stool, and dipped his nose down to a fresh mug of beer. He swallowed long and then inhaled, summoning the foam cap to his clean-shaven face like teenage whiskers. "Another ordinary sea dog on another ordinary day," thought Korik. She didn't exactly miss the adventuring life so much as she looked for it, like someone who had lost a limb. Then the day got less ordinary, or, you could say, Korik found her arm. The door banged open, and a large blue half-Humanian waded through the stools that had clustered like barnacles at the curve of the bar. He was tusked, like Korik, but otherwise they looked quite different from one another. Her complexion was more red of the Highland mountains, while his had that blue of the ice plains. His shoulders were smooth, while hers were ridged with bone, her own bones. Her hair was shorn close to the head, while his fell in a tangle to his shoulders. She wore a sleeveless metal shirt and corduroy leather pants. He wore hides that fell in skirts about his waist. The longest could be pulled up over the head, but at the moment there was no shirt, and certainly no shoes. "No egg breaking today, half-humanian."
She tipped her axe to him and set the egg, balanced on top, spinning with a flick of her wrist.
"I am Shagal Umruk." He reached out and spun the seaman's stool. The fellow flailed, but remained seated as he spun round. A sailor, full of drink or no, is the last one to lose their balance. Shagal tensed his muscles and raised the stool into the air. They faced off, spinning. Korik sneered at Shagal. He sneered back.
Things were off to a good start.
"He's not so bad," she thought. "From the wilds, sure. He has that outdoor stride, pushing through tables and chairs like a fisherman sorting the day's catch. But he's not cruel, just proud. He's got something to prove, though. Well,
not in here."
She grabbed a hot potato out of the oven with her bare hand, threw it at the half-humanian's head.
"Meat."
Shagal dropped the seaman and caught the potato. He crushed it, letting the steam seep up through his fingers. "Meat." Ah, well, things could have been so nice. Still, she had won. Korik's egg was still spinning. The tavern door clattered, and a mariner with dark, tightly curled hair stepped inside while buttoning the breeches of his expensive turquoise leathers with black trim. The clothing looked new, though the man inside did not. Like the barbarian, he too was not wearing shoes. "Remind me to put up a sign about this," Korik said to the cook, pointing to the bare feet.
"How many scoundrels have this one thing in common?"
"No footwear, no entry. I'll get right to it after I cook 100 potatoes, butcher the lamb shank, stuff the intestines, warm the blood porridge, refill the water from the well down the street, and see that the new barmaid hasn't stabbed anyone." "Sure thing, boss." Korik stared at the painting of the loaf of bread. Some days, the life of the artist didn't look so bad.